biggest show of TNA's calendar, Slammiversary, took place this past Sunday. So much to talk about, not even just the matches, but the aftermath and so much more. This is Wrestle Extra. Yo, this is a Wrestle Extra. I'm your boy, A Dazzle, the Black Wrestling Advocate. Of course, joined by my tag team partner, the Oracle. Say his name, he shall appear. It is Gerard Bonner. How are you doing, sir?
I'm great, man. How are you?
All good. Ready to talk about all things Slammiversary and anything else we can squeeze in
For sure.
the next hour or so. Well, it's always over an hour, but we try. All right, let's get straight into it. So Slammiversary happened on Sunday. Of course, we all know the partnership between TNA and NXT. So there were a lot of NXT featured stars within the mix. But let's start with two guys who are former WWE talents, no longer with the company. But we saw a rivalry that we've been waiting for, a match that we've been waiting for years upon years, which was Cedric Alexander versus Mustafa Ali. Gerard, I'm gonna put you in the firing line. Just give me your take on the match itself, the finish, the story, everything surrounding this match.
And the match was fantastic. And it's wild because, you know, many will reference what they did, of course, at WrestleMania several years ago, fighting for the Cruiserweight Championship at that time. Though you could make the argument that perhaps not as many people saw that match because it was very early. It might have even been like pre-show, if my memory serves me correctly. Pre-show. So it's highly possible that a lot of people missed what they actually did. Here they are now, I think, in the best shape of their career. And they put on a clinic to kick off Slammiversary. I mean, it was incredible. And given all that Mustafa Ali has done over the last couple of years, he's really become kind of a top star in TNA. Of course, Cedric Alexander doing all that he's doing on the indies, in Ashe, coming back to TNA, or coming to TNA just a few weeks ago. This had all the makings of an instant classic, and it was amazing. And it's wild because the ending of the match, of course, saw the craziest. I mean, a lumbar check on Natasha Steelz,
wild.
Which is it really was reminiscent of what he did several years ago, the clip that's gone viral with Johnny Gargano's wife, and how she just kind of lost it there. And it was picture perfect. It was incredible. And so it ended, of course, with Mustafa Ali taking advantage of that, getting the 3 count. He gets the win. Cedric Alexander loses the match. It's Mustafa's first win over Cedric Alexander, which was significant. I don't know if this means this appearance with Cedric Alexander is kind of one and done in terms of his time in TNA, or if this is going to turn into a rivalry of some sort. But I mean, what a great way to kick off a historic night for TNA and Slammiversary.
You know, the match itself wasn't the flippy match that we saw in WrestleMania. It wasn't as fast-paced and all the rest of it. Of course, we are so many years down the line. But as you said, it was still a clinic. I think the thing that these two men are great at is putting matches together, knowing their own opponents. And of course, they know each other very well. You know, and I think that's what it was. Some of the spots, Mustafa hitting the ring steps on the backdrop. I've never seen that happen before in my life.
No.
And as basic as a backdrop is in the world of wrestling, it was just different. It was different. Crazy.
Yeah, you know, I think this is kind of the evolution of who they are as wrestlers. And so the difference, I think, between this match and the match that happened several years ago at the pre-show of WrestleMania is then they were in the cruiserweight division. So there were certain expectations of them. I think they have evolved and they've recognized, okay, we don't have to do as much to tell a great story. And they did that. And this isn't a shot, but you'll get what I'm saying. Them running this match back 6 or 7 years later hits different than Omega Okada 6, 7 years later.
Interesting.
Because to me, Omega Okada, had all the hype, what we were ready for. And that to me did not deliver as much as their previous matches did. This match for Ali and Alexander very much felt like a continuation and an evolution. And it didn't feel like it took a step back.
And I think in a funny way, as much as we've heard, or Undertaker's probably very well known for kind of his look and his take on like maybe cruiserweight style, of wrestling. I think in this instance, it helps a wrestler because you can do all of that stuff in your younger days and while you still fresh and all the rest of it. As you get older, you have to evolve and you have to change up your style. Some people can't handle that. These two clearly can,
for sure.
And I think that's what was seen, and I think that's the biggest take for me coming away from this match and how they put it together, what happened and how it finished. I mean, for some strange reason, I've seen like differing ideals of the ending, and I don't understand why. I think it was brilliant.
I thought it was perfect. Yeah,
it was brilliant. The unexpected lumbar check, then the unexpected 450. Like the timing.
Yeah,
you had to get that correct.
Yeah,
is wild. And in terms of Alexander, kind of, will we see him again in TNA? I wouldn't be surprised if we don't. We saw, I think it was from Thursday, we saw Order 4 kind of mix it up with the system. I think that might continue in a bit of a faction war. I think it would be a good thing for Mustafa and Order 4 to kind of establish them a little bit more seriously and all of that as well. So that should be interesting. It gives me a brilliant segue because as we talk about the system, the next match I want to talk about, of course, is the leader or the figurehead of the system, which is Moose. Of course, Moose defended his X Division championship against Leon Slater. Moose was chasing the longest reigning X Division record. And of course, Leon Slater was chasing becoming the youngest X Division champion of all time. I'm going to put it to you again. I'm going to let you tell me how you saw this match, what happened, how it went down, and the ending as well.
Well, we've talked before about the challenge of trying to predict all things NXT, but we got this right. We got this right. To me, the how was really important because, you've got the towering figure that is Moose, who is the veteran. I mean, he's, 6'6", almost 300 pounds. I mean, he is a towering figure over the young and lanky opponent there. And I think what was so interesting about Leon Slater is it was classic David versus Goliath of sorts. To see Slater really have to work for that. This was not an easy moment for him. I mean, him doing his Swanton 450 and having Moose kick out of it was crazy. That had never happened before. Him hitting the spear on Moose, having to then do a separate Swanton and then do the Swanton 450 again. Like, it was just all of these kinds of things which said you had to go the extra mile to take out the guy who was close to becoming the longest reigning X Division champion. So this was massive. It was massive. It was huge. It was major. And what a great moment for Leon Slater, who I think has done the work. He has been the prospect for quite some time. And so to see, obviously, he had the rub from the Hardys for a while, and now he gets to stand on his own 2 feet as the new X Division champion. And to me, as great as that was, the moment when Moose afterwards pushes the referee out of the way so he can put the title on Leon Slater. Beautiful, brilliant, classy. Man, I loved everything about this. A great match on top of all of that.
And then to put the exclamation mark on top of all of that,
Woo!
who returns but AJ Styles with the old school theme as well.
Yes.
I mean, you saw Leon Slater's joy jumping up and down in the ring.
Yeah.
He seemed like he was happier to see AJ Styles than winning the title.
Yeah, for
which
sure.
which I can't lie, makes sense to me.
Yeah.
You know, we've been waiting for AJ Styles to make a return to TNA for the longest amount of time. You know, when he comes out to put over Leon Slater, you know, give him his blessing, tell him he's the future, all this stuff for a 20-year-old. And this hits different because us in our prime ripe ages, we watched WWE when we were little, WCW or both,
Sure.
you know, when we were little.
Sure.
That's what we watched. But in the time Leon Slater was growing up and finding out, you know, about wrestling, TNA became big then.
Right.
So he's watching AJ Styles every single week. He's become a wrestler because of the likes of AJ Styles. And he said it so many times, even before he was even signed to TNA. I heard him say this so many times, that he was a TNA kid.
Right.
So for him to win his first championship, become the youngest X Division champion ever, to take it from Moose then giving him the belt, then for AJ Styles to come out, his family's in attendance, his mom, his sister, his girlfriend, all in attendance, and then that happens. I don't know how a night could be better for someone than that. It's crazy. To add to it as well, for me, of course, definitely, you know, with him being from the UK as well, you know, it's mad to think that he's only 20 years old, but been doing this for 11 years.
Right.
How?
Like child labor laws against this, right? Like what in the world?
He's been doing moonsaults before he did his exams, before he went to college, before all of this stuff. He was in the ring. It's crazy, and it's a massive thing for him, for sure. Here's a question regarding AJ Styles. We had all this hype for about, you know, almost a week, knowing that he was going to make a return. There's been recent reports over the last couple of days that he was supposed to be in a certain segment. Do you think that the way he was used was the correct way, or could there have been a better way for AJ Styles to be used at Slammiversary on his return?
I think it was the right call. You know, you don't want to tease a match if we aren't really ready to go with it. But when you consider that AJ Styles was the inaugural X Division champion, he is the guy who I think TNA was fully built around. This was, I mean, the epitome of a moment. You could not have crafted a moment better than this. For someone like Leon Slater, who, to your point, you know, you think about TNA. TNA's been around now for 23 years. This is literally what this kid grew up with, you know? So it hits much differently. They crafted a moment, and to bring AJ Styles into that moment for what was the biggest show in North America for TNA ever, that's massive. So I think they used him perfectly. That was the right way to do it. You give him a spot. You don't put him in any sort of physical danger, given that he's got SummerSlam in less than 2 weeks. You know, so this was the right way to use him. He didn't have to get physical. He just needed to be there. And he got to talk. He got to come out to his old music. I think if they'd done this any other way, it had the potential to not hit the same. Because if you bring him in the middle of some other war or some other storyline, you know, you create an issue where you might not be able to have continuity. You know, does he have to come back for something? If somebody, you know, beats him down, does he come back to get a lick back on them? Like what happens? I think here you have a very clear-cut moment where the focus was on AJ Styles' return, but still very much on the crowning of Leon Slater. It was done so well by AJ that he didn't take away from the crowning of Leon. Now that's massive, because it's the first time AJ's been back to TNA. And for someone of that level of significance to TNA to still put the spotlight on the new champion, well done. Very well done.
Mm. It begs the question: does this add pressure to Leon Slater or TNA, probably even both, to then make something of Leon Slater within TNA? So, for example, if we look back in, say, like 5 years, or we look, 5 years, and we look back at this moment now, will there be a pressure for us to have to say, oh, that now made sense that AJ Styles put over Leon Slater?
It's tough. Ideally, the answer to that is yes, right? Like
Mm,
Leon, this is the crowning moment for Leon Slater. That should be the ultimate launching pad to a great career. Now, of
mm,
course, there's a whole lot of variables. The injury factor is one, given the style of wrestling that he's involved in. Obviously, the opponents that'll be around. Who else could get signed to TNA and all? But I do think TNA being built around the future, building that around a Leon Slater. I think revamping the X division to look like what it used to look like when it
mm,
started, you
mm,
have a great opportunity to do that. So I do think that there's a responsibility for them to make sure that they use him well, so that this is more than just a moment, but that it's a launching pad for Leon Slater.
The one thing, this is just my own random thought. The
Yeah,
one
yeah,
thing
yeah.
that I was wanting to see and almost expected, especially out there we were in New York, was for Amazing Red to come out and put the
That
belt
would
on
have
Leon.
been wild.
That would
Yeah,
have been amazing. That would have
that
been
would have been
amazing.
wild. Yeah.
Still speaking about the same match, but of course, Moose loses the title. And on the socials, a few hours later or the next day, he's posted. I'm going to read it. What he said. I've accomplished almost everything here at TNA Wrestling. He then congratulated Leon, and then ended with, "For me, it's time to take a step back, get healthy, and see what's next." So the
Mhm.
question obviously is, what is next for Moose?
That's a great question. Obviously, I think what's next is to take some time and heal.
Mm-hmm.
He's
Mm-hmm.
been going really, really hard for TNA over these last few years. I mean, if you think about it, he was such an important fixture during the pandemic. You think about his time during that crossover with AEW,
Mm-hmm.
and then going on to win the world championship and make comparisons to Roman Reigns, and all of the craziness. People forget that
Yeah.
that happened,
Right.
right? But all the craziness. But what he was trying to do was be the flag bearer for
Mm-hmm.
TNA. And so I applaud him for that, especially during that time frame. He deserves the opportunity to take some time and heal. The question really is, what's next? I mean, he had the opportunity to leave TNA, sign potentially with WWE or AEW. He chose TNA, chose a
Mm-hmm.
long-term contract, which I think was like 5 years or something. And
Mm-hmm.
so it is interesting. Now, of course, during that time frame, the TNA NXT partnership wasn't a thing. So I don't know if he comes back to potentially fight for TNA. We'll get into kind of what championship opportunities could be available, and when in terms of crossing the line. But I think for right
Mm.
now, he deserves a break. He deserves the opportunity to take some time and heal. And then when he comes back, the question is he still involved in the system? Does he become his own man? Do we see a good guy,
Mm.
Moose, who's actually fighting on behalf of the company? Because something tells me that we could be seeing an all-out TNA versus NXT kind of situation that could use the power of a Moose, a healthy Moose.
Mm.
So
Mm.
I think those are some options for him. I think this is a time for him to rest up and get ready for the battle that's ahead.
And I think it's a very good place for him to be. He still has options. You mentioned that he could have signed with AEW or WWE. I think that was about 3 years ago now.
Mm-hmm.
And everyone expected him to sign with WWE. He was in the prime definitely at the time of his career on a
Yeah.
high, as a champion, all that kind of thing. And it kind of felt as though when he decided to stay with TNA, it felt as though he missed an opportunity.
Right.
We were questioning whether he was confident enough to be a smaller fish in a bigger pond than being the
Right.
big fish in the small pond.
Right.
But I think for me, this X Division title run has reminded us just how good he is.
Yeah.
The match that he had with Leon, people are saying it's the match of the night. He's even said, I think it was today that he posted about him having this match and being in the most pain he's ever been in a match, and then
wow.
thanking Leon Slater for kind of helping him through the match.
Wow.
So it's clear that he needs to rest. That's definitely obvious that he needs to rest. But I think it also gives him time to figure out his options. I think he still has so many. And I'm a massive. I've always been a massive fan of Moose. And going forward, kind of thinking ahead in terms of these different options. It could be in WWE if that offers on the table, or if that's a possibility. We could see. We've talked about so many times. There not being a real contender for Obafemi's NXT Championship.
Sure.
Maybe Moose ends up being that guy in a few months or so. But yeah, even to what you said as well, if this war continues, or if you see a war, go ahead with NXT, TNA, and Moose becomes the savior.
Yeah,
that makes a lot of sense to me. That would be amazing. But it's interesting as well that when he signed that new contract way back, management was very different. Scott D'Amore was still at the top. And obviously with his sudden departure, it rocked everybody. We saw a few people leave, or after a few weeks or months leave the company, or that kind of thing. So who knows? Maybe he's in that state of mind as well. Maybe he feels as though he needs to leave. We don't know. But like I said, he has so many options.
He does. And I think, you kick off 2026 with his return at the Royal Rumble.
That would be phenomenal. That would be so perfect. It's either that, or if we have, anything at Survivor Series between NXT, TNA, or anything close to that, that's when. But if not that, Royal Rumble would be perfect. And this is the thing that I love about the Royal Rumble appearances is you don't people don't come out as surprises and you expect them to win unless they've been in WWE for a while, like a John Cena or Seth Rollins or something like that. But if it's a Moose, it's just you're happy to see them there. That's what he needs to do. Showcases is what he can do, and that's all you need to see. But I think that would be a statement in so many ways, either as to what the future holds, or just to the simple fact of who Moose is. That would be amazing. That would be amazing. Moving on, here's a question for you. Does anybody know if AJ Francis is still walking?
Listen. Oh man. That, he had two major moments in that ladder match. First of all, I think people were shocked at the moonsault off of the ladder, which just so people understand, a moonsault is difficult anyway. But usually when you're doing it off of the top rope, you've got the spring off of the ropes, which gives you some leverage and makes it easy to do the backflip, etc. This man did it off of a ladder with no give, with no back, with no bounce or anything like that. So that was massive to see him do that. But my God, the way he landed when he got pushed off of the ladder, where it looked like he jumped off of the ladder as he's moving, and then it's clear he lands in between the rungs on his feet. Woo! Yeah, AJ, you talk about somebody needing time off. I think it's AJ Francis. Talk about we outside. No, go inside, sir, because you're hurting right now, okay? I mean, good Lord. That was brutal.
It's like he basically did a coup de grace off the ladder onto the floor. Wow.
Oh,
and then his legs buckled, his knee gets trapped. Oh my word!
It reminded me of when Adam Copeland tried to do that from the top of the cage in AEW. through the table and the way he landed, because he landed feet first. Gravity doesn't care when you land feet first. So I'm concerned about AJ Francis, because the landing for his feet and his nether regions, good Lord. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
I feel like he won't be running after any kids anytime soon.
No. Penthouse is on pause, because that's crazy. That's crazy.
Man, what a match that was, though, man. What a match that was, and the ending with Jeff Hardy using the helicopter style ladder to outrageous,
so creative.
outrageous.
Oh my
Absolutely amazing, absolutely amazing. Let's talk about the final match. The main event of the night, of course, was Trick Williams defending his TNA championship in a triple threat against the former champion Joe Hendry and the fan favorite that is Mike Santana.
Yeah.
Before all that happened, we got the whoop that trick.
Yes. Shout out to the Harlem Gospel Ensemble. I know some of the people in there.
Wow.
And so seeing their faces was amazing. I believe it was Roger Hambrick who directed them, and I've known him and those folks for a while. So that was here's what's wild. It's wild that we got that level of intro for Trick outside of NXT. I fully expected something of that grandeur at a stand and deliver or somewhere else for Trick in NXT. So I think that said a lot about TNA and what they think of Trick. And it was brilliant, because it's the first time we've officially gotten lyrics outside of Booker T. So yeah, huge. Ajane, I saw you, and all of the other great people involved. It was incredible. And then there's this cool video out there of Trick backstage with them directing them. Oh gosh.
It's amazing.
It made me as a music kid very, very happy. Very, very happy.
It was amazing. I think the only thing that was missing, it would have been so cool if Booker T came out with him and did his little ad libs. That would have been crazy. That would have been crazy. Yeah. But of course, Trick managed somehow, well, literally being the trickster that he is, faking the leg injury, leaving Mike Santana and Joe Hendry to beat each other up. Santana hits his finisher. Trick jumps in, throws Mike Santana out the ring, pins Joe Hendry, and retains his championship. Of course, earlier in the evening, JC Jane once again shocked the world and defeated Masha Slamovich and is now the NXT Women's Champion and TNA Knockouts Champion. It brings me to the question, are we starting to see a one-sided partnership between NXT and TNA? Because a few months back, we were talking about how great this partnership is, how it doesn't feel one-sided, how it's not like the TNA AEW thing and all the rest of it. People are now starting to think the opposite and think it's exactly the same, because we can reel off the results. Roxanne beating Jordan Grace, Obafemi beating Moose, and of course Trick Williams beating Joe Hendry. Joe Hendry being in the Royal Rumble for like 2 seconds. All these different things. Does this scream a one-sided, or are the fans just going a bit crazy?
Let me say this. Does this scream a one-sided partnership? Absolutely not. Okay? Let me help you with something. If you haven't figured it out yet, the greatest storytellers in pro wrestling history is the WWE. I know you don't want it. I know you like them. Nobody tells a story like the WWE. And what they are ultimately setting up right now is a TNA versus NXT situation where TNA serves as the underdog and gets the opportunity to get their championships back. This is the problem with trying to make an assessment a third or a fourth or even halfway through a story. You can't say that, oh my God, I can't believe the bad guys just beat Superman, and you're 30 minutes into the movie. Okay? You've got to figure this out by now, folks. And here's what's so great about this. Every single time something like this happens, people get on their soapbox and they write their think pieces and they have all their tweets and all of these things. Listen, guys, listen. If you're saying, so for all the people who said, oh, well, it happened this way where, Joe Hendry had 15 seconds in the Royal Rumble. Okay, so we're negating when Moose showed up to NXT and defeated Lexis King to retain his X Division championship, right? We're going to negate when on NXT soil, the Hardys defeated Fraxium to retain their tag team championships. There have been many an occasion when NXT went over to TNA and fought for the Knockouts championship and lost to Jordan Grace and lost to Masha Slamovich. Guys, if you're going to tell the story, tell the whole story. Don't keep redacting certain parts of the story so you can have a narrative. The narrative is, this is a whole partnership, okay? Think about the fact that it took a year before a championship changed hands in either place. A year, which means all of TNA's champions won their matches. All of NXT's champions won their matches. It was even, a level playing field. So I think we got to learn how to tell the whole story. And what we're ultimately seeing here is the potential of an invasion angle, right? You've got to know that at some point, TNA is going to get their lick back. It's going to happen. The question is when. And here's the other thing to consider. Everybody's benefiting from this, okay? Let's talk about the fact that this Slammiversary card happened at the single largest TNA attendance in North America history. 23 years, TNA's been operating in the United States, in Canada, and all of a sudden, this is the show where you've got Trick Williams, an NXT guy, as your world champion, where you're going to have both the women's and the Knockouts championship, winner take all. That cannot be ignored. It cannot be ignored, the effect that NXT and WWE has had on TNA's business. Business is booming for TNA. And this is a great time. So no, this is not a one-sided partnership. Absolutely both sides are benefiting. And I think TNA, their stock continues to rise. They were trending #1 on X Sunday night for all sports categories. That hasn't happened before. Never. So all of the wins, all of the measurables in the important areas are screaming wins, wins, wins. So no, this is not a one-sided partnership. The story is far from over. We've got a long way to go with this TNA NXT situation. And I'm excited. We sat on here in this show several months ago talking about what was needed for Trick Williams. And we said a shot and a run at the TNA World Championship because it was going to put him in the ring with new competitors, seasoned opponent, and it was going to make him better. And what have we seen? A far better Trick Williams than we've ever seen, with far better matches on the regular than he's ever been a part of. I think what we're also seeing here is the rise of JC Jane. Most of us have already thought to ourselves, man, this JC Jane experiment should have never started, let alone been happening now. But this is how you build a star. The second that they called her the most beatable champion in NXT history, the story was already written. It was already written. And so you put her against these opponents that it seems like there's no way she should win. Evolution, there's no way she should beat Jordan Grace. But you throw in Blake Monroe. Okay, so there's no way she should beat Masha Slamovich. But Masha's pinned her twice already. Writing's on the wall there. Okay? Writing is on the wall. And they found a way. Again, this is why she has a faction. This is the same formula that made Ric Flair great, guys. The Four Horsemen. So this is a classic formula that is working, and it's building stars in the process. So whether you like JC Jane or not, at some point, you're going to have to acknowledge, okay, even if she slipped on a banana peel, we're going to have to start putting some respect on her name because she's finding ways to win. And every villain that we never liked, they weren't great because they were great wrestlers. It was because they found ways to win. And thusly, we hated them the more. Cue JC Jane.
And people forget as well, you know, that whole thing with Gigi Dolan, you know, when she did the whole Shawn Michaels Mighty Genetic thing, that tells me everything.
Yes.
That tells me everything. She has got the backing, complete backing of Shawn Michaels. Totally. And if he's the man calling the shots and has that, you know, has that influence on what happens, we were going to get this eventually. And my thing is this, and I'll be very honest, I'm not the biggest fan of JCJ. And for me, the way it happened from her beating Stephanie Vicaire, I was like, I get you want to do the shock thing, but where was the build for JC? Like if it was Fallon Henley, it would have made a little bit more sense because she was a previous North American champion and blah, blah, blah. But as you said, this is how you create the stars. The shocks, 2, 3 shocks in the space of 2 months. Like you can't deny her. And that's not in-ring ability. And it's not about whether you like them or not. It's she's here and that's it. You can't do anything about it. She's here and that is it. Get used to it. Enjoy it for what it is. But complaining ain't going to make a difference because, as you said, the story has already been written. And the way they're doing it is brilliant.
Yeah, you know, the fact that people are complaining says that she's creating a reaction.
Exactly.
And that is the point. And I think people miss that. Listen, if this were a case where we didn't care, because what we know about NXT for sure is they are so closely connected to the fans, partially because that home base in Orlando, a lot of the same fans, so they're going to tell you, and they're going to tell you quickly, will this work? Will this not? You know, so it's clear. JC Jane, you know, this is the formula that also worked for Jinder Mahal, right? Jinder Mahal, if you think about that, you know, man, like he nobody was thinking about him. He mysteriously lucks up and wins the #1 contender spot, and everybody's like, oh, well, this will be a cakewalk. Randy Orton, Jinder Mahal, and Jinder Mahal becomes the world champion. And we're like, what? The most unlikely WWE champion of all time. So we're like, okay, he's going to lose. And you keep waiting for him to lose. And he doesn't lose. And he doesn't lose. And at some point, he starts turning these people to where now they're saying, don't hinder Jinder, right? So I think we're in this space where we could make the argument, well, where's the build? Sometimes you don't need a build. All the build you need is shock, right? And here's the thing with JC Jane. They didn't just grab JC Jane from the Performance Center last week and crown her champion. She has been there for years. So you could make the argument on one hand, okay, well, this is a thankful seniority moment because she's been there. But the reality of it is you still have to be able to produce. So she is able to get it done in the ring. She's able to get the reaction. You're booing her out of the building. Hey, that's what they want. If you didn't care at all, you wouldn't boo, you wouldn't cheer, you'd ignore. And if you ignore her, oh, okay, well, then we got a different scenario. Now we have 2 brands that hate her. TNA hates her. NXT hates her. Man, that's a recipe for printing money because now what you want to do is see who's going to finally take that title off of her. That says to me, we could have a lengthy JC Jane reign.
That is crazy to think.
Mm-hmm.
And the other comparison, as you were talking just now, the other comparison I'm thinking of in terms of the shock or the boom, well, more so the reactions more than anything else, is your current Intercontinental Champion, Dominic Mysterio. Like,
Precisely.
been booing him for years upon years upon years. And, we knew that it was part of the whole purpose and whatnot. He wins the Intercontinental Championship and the place goes crazy.
Absolutely.
So, I don't get how we've been wrestling fans for as long as we have and still think that getting upset is a bad thing for them.
Right.
It's not.
Right.
It's a reaction that they wanted. So
exactly.
Keep feeding it. Keep going.
Yes.
And it's crazy. Going back to the whole argument of this one-sided affair with TNA and NXT, you made the point of TNA eventually getting it back. Like, it's obvious that is going to happen.
Right.
And it's not going to be a small thing.
Mm-mm.
And I think a lot of people expected it to happen with Mike Santana. Like, the whole scenario was kind of set up. He was in his hometown of New York. The build had been good. He'd been getting his reps on NXT and TNA, vignettes and social media and content and this, that, and one. It would have worked. Mm-hmm. But let's leave it for it to last even longer. Yeah. And the payoff will be even bigger.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's going to be interesting to see how it all works out. But for me, as you mentioned already as well, the deal that they have is multi-year. It's not a rolling contract type of situation where similar to like, AEW and TNA had, or at one point AEW and New Japan had, it's kind of like a see what happens. No, this is set in stone. It's multi-year.
Yeah.
So this isn't the end of it. We're only into the first year, if that.
Right. Remember, the announcement was just made this year.
January this year. Exactly.
So we got time, folks.
Loads of time.
We got time.
Loads of time. So it's way too early to speculate whether this is one-sided. And I understand a shock and frustration in terms of two NXT stars holding their top championships. I get it. But let's just think about the bigger picture here. Someone has to beat them eventually. And whether that takes a year or 2 years, it has to happen.
And here's the other thing that I think is amazing in all of this. WWE could have positioned themselves as the knights in shining armor, the great heroes, but they're not. They're positioning TNA as the underdogs to be able to come and get their lick back, which means more people are going to side with TNA, which means TNA is going to grow because everybody wants to see the big corporate giant ultimately lose. It's the story of our lives, right? So we're getting to see it play out. And so I just say to everybody, take your time and wait. We've seen so much of this in the last couple of years, whether it's Cody finishing his story and everybody thought it should have happened at 40 when it happened at 39 rather, and it happened at 40, whether it's Hangman Page the other week, right? All the time it took for Hangman Page to get to that particular spot. We're seeing this happen everywhere. Joe Hendry in the TNA World title. Many thought that should have happened last year. Because he was so hot and he had the, so it just says to me that our timing doesn't exactly match the timing of what could be best. Because it's hot now doesn't mean that they have to pull the trigger, because that means there's more time to build it to make it that much better. So we end up getting Hangman Page winning in a stadium and winning the world title. And think about that moment when we finally got to see the AEW World Championship that we hadn't physically seen in 7 months. So there's something to be said about the psychology of waiting that allows, once the wait is over, it just all feels so much better. And I think that's what we're going to see. And TNA is going to be bigger and better and will gain a larger fan base. I mean, they're talking about TNA on Raw They're talking about, like it's wild. It's wild, but there's a large plan that's in place. And there's something interesting that happened, which has got me asking other questions. I just noticed certain things. Did you notice right during the first match, on the lower third, they had Tom Hannafin play-by-play, Matthew Raywald, analyst. They had so-and-so as interviewer. They had Mackenzie Mitchell as ring announcer, or Gia Miller as interviewer. And I went, guys, this is the exact same thing they put on WWE television. Raw, SmackDown, NXT, which made me go, are we just influencing? Are we silently owning? Something is happening. They've got Endeavor, who's handling their streaming. See, people don't look this deep into things. I'm the dude that read the credits for the CD liners, okay? That's why I pay attention to this stuff, all right? Everybody else is just like, who's doing the feature? And I'm like, who's the producer, right? Who mixed it, okay? So when you see those little kinds of things that they weren't doing before, I'm like, guys.
And here the craziest thing is, I saw it, but it went straight over my head because it seemed natural to me because I've been seeing it on Raw and SmackDown every week.
Exactly.
Wow.
Exactly.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah. Something's happening, crazy. Guys.
And here's the other thing as well. We talk about wrestling and wrestling being a business. We talk, obviously, their record attendance they've ever had in the 23 years. That's because of the NXT influence and WWE influence, of course. And, it was mentioned, I think, from yesterday that they're now in talks of getting a new TV deal, bigger TV deal than they've ever had. How does that happen? Because of where they're at right now, because of the WWE influence. Let's not forget, wrestling isn't about who's winning and losing and who's the champion. It's about the money that's being made.
Exactly.
It's as simple as that. So if that's happening, I'm sure, TNA aren't looking at this thinking, oh no, when's Mike Santana going to be champion?
Right.
No, they're thinking, oh yes, when are we going to secure this TV deal?
Right. Because think about this. If you secure the TV deal, TV rights means more money.
Right.
More money means bigger spaces and bigger platforms. So we could have Mike Santana win it in Long Island, in New York, in front of the largest house so far at 7,600 people. Or we could wait a year or maybe even 2 years. Bring TNA to Madison Square Garden. Pack out Madison Square Garden. And then let him win the championship. Think about the callback that is, right? The callback to Roadblock, where several of the TNA guys came in. Moose came in and couldn't win the NXT title, but the TNA tag titles were successful. And now you get to run it back in Madison Square Garden as opposed to the theater. Because you've got more money, you've got more opportunity, they're in front of more eyes, more people know, their names are more familiar. It's about business, and fans aren't thinking that far ahead. They're just thinking about what's being presented in front of them, which is okay. But you just have to remember, before you do all your think pieces, think about the deeper picture. Because you're so busy trying to say, oh, well, they're not doing this. No. They're cutting the deals backstage so that you are interested in all of this.
That's that's the crazy thing. Not to give anything away. I think you mentioned you said something like this, but not to give anything away. I watched the Superman movie the other day. I'm not going to tell what's happened, but it starts off with him battered and bruised, and it's like you said. There is no way I'm going to go into that film seeing him like that in the first 2 minutes, thinking, oh, Superman's done for.
Right.
No. It's how does he get this back? The intrigue is how does he win from here?
Right.
And that's what we should be looking at with this whole TNA situation, especially if we're talking just about the wrestlers and, what we see and what's presented to us. is who and how do they get their lick back? Like that's the intrigue, not that they're, you know, two TNA NXT guys have got their championships, but it's who and how is going to win it back and what it's going to do for them. We said this about Mercedes last week about her not winning the AEW championship. It puts Toni Storm on a different stratosphere than she already was.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? It's sometimes it's better not to go with what the expectation is because you're building to something even bigger.
Right.
So, you know, I get the upset. I do. It makes sense. But again, as you said, you know, if you're gonna put out something, if you're gonna put out your opinion or the rest of it, think about all the other things and not just the basics, not just your own narrative. Think about everything else. The amount of times, it's like you said, you know, people have TNA guys have defended their championships on NXT.
Right.
We saw Zachary Wentz get the one over on Wesley.
Yeah, we sure did.
I don't think he would have become an X Division champion in that time if it wasn't for that rivalry with Wesley.
For sure.
It didn't last long, but at the same time, I don't think it would have happened. So he benefits from that on a personal level as well. So there are so many benefits, and we just generally tend to think that the benefit is the championship. It's not the only benefit that there is. It really isn't. Even just as wrestlers in the ring, it's not. So, yeah, man, it's way too early to kind of, you know, make that the statement of it being a one-sided thing. It's way too early. There's still so much that can be done and that will be done. And I think it's just obvious that at the end of the day, you know, TNA will get their revenge in whatever way it is. Whatever wrestler, your over wrestler will become the biggest star, or someone that they're trying to rise up will become the biggest star if and when they win the TNA championships. It's crazy. It's what's interesting is just before we came on air, I just watched Sunday's LFG. It was all about
big guy,
size matters.
Yes.
Always, it was all about big guy, little guy, and the underdog. You've mentioned it already, you know, with certain underdogs, you Daniel Bryan, Kofi Kingston, Eddie Guerrero, Rey Mysterio, the list goes on and on and on the way that we attach ourselves to the underdog. Right now, TNA is the underdog. So we're going to, whether we know it or not, attach ourselves to TNA, and that is all that they want.
Yes. I mean, to your point, the fact that the question can be asked, is the partnership one-sided? Says to me that people have a buy-in with TNA. It's other than that, you'd be going, of course WWE would win. They're WWE. But the fact that you have a question says that you are already bought into TNA as the underdog and you're pulling for them. Even if you haven't watched TNA on a regular basis, you're going, wait a second, that Masha Slamovich, that Joe Hendry, that Mike Santana, I want them to beat them. If it's nothing for the sake of history, you're siding with the underdog. That's the whole point. And because there's that much buy-in, if you're writing think pieces, if you're tweeting that it's unfair, you're already locked in. And I love that for you.
It's similar to write, you know, posting something. Can you get people, you know, in the comments like, oh, what's the point of this? Or I don't like the way you said so and so. You've just given me engagement.
Absolutely.
That's all my page needs.
That's it.
So the fact that you're complaining is actually a good thing for me.
We don't complain about things we don't care about. We completely ignore it. We turn the channel. We don't talk about it. If we care, that's when we give it attention.
So it's interesting. It's very, very interesting just to see how this whole thing is going to work out. And just, you know, I'm intrigued to see how and when, and over time as well, the fans' perception changes. You know what I mean? Like, how will it happen? How will it happen? You know what I mean? All that kind of thing. And that's the other thing that's interesting about wrestling and doing what we do as well specifically.
Yeah.
Is not just watching wrestling, but watching the reactions, watching the
Yes.
fans, seeing how they react, all that kind of thing.
Yeah.
The psychology of this whole business is the most intriguing part, more than anything that actually happens in the ring.
Yeah, for sure.
It's crazy. It's crazy.
Yeah.
I'm gonna sound like one of these fans that I'm talking about now because I'm gonna complain.
Let's go. Let's go.
Complain. We didn't get to mention it last week. I think we wanted to, and we kind of talked about it after we come off air. It's this whole thing with the Street Profits. And you know what? This plays into what we were saying already. It's good that we didn't talk about it last week because after what happened on Friday, when we had this whole, was it a triple threat or was it a four-way tag?
A fatal four-way. Four-way,
tag team match. Without the former tag team champions in the running. We call you the professor. You're all knowing, all seeing. Can you help me explain this one, please?
This is really interesting. Under normal circumstances, whatever normal wrestling circumstances are, as the champions, when you lose the titles, you usually are first in line to get a rematch. They just lost these tag titles about a week or two ago to the Wyatt Six. The rest of the division, the other four teams, have come together and all ended up in this fatal four-way. And the tag team champions were nowhere, or the former tag champions and the Street Profits were nowhere to be found. Instead, they were backstage being interviewed, being asked this question. And there was a piece that I don't recall people talking about. B-Fab was back with them out of nowhere, right? Literally, like she wasn't with them during their tag team title run.
No.
And now she's back. I don't know. There is a mystery with the Street Profits that I think at some point needs to be answered. Now, I don't know if this is designed to get them so angry that they just go ham on all the tag teams, or if it's going to spark a breakup. I think right now, the breakup is more wishful thinking than it is promised reality.
Yeah.
Because what's happened is Angelo Dawkins has gotten so good that people can't even have the conversation about who the stronger member is. You could argue that Angelo Dawkins right now is the strongest member of the Street Profits because he's been doing the heavy lifting all the way around. You know, I think we've been expecting a Montez Ford run for so long, and we haven't gotten it, and it feels like his star has diminished a little bit. So I'm intrigued to see where do the Street Profits go from here? Do they end up challenging the winner of whoever ends up being in this tag team title match? Does it happen on one of the nights of SummerSlam? I'm still looking at this SummerSlam card going, do we have enough for 2 nights? I'm not convinced of that yet, but I need to kind of comb through it to make sure. But the Street Profits for sure. I know people are talking think pieces and what happens if the Street Profits don't end up on SummerSlam, because let's face it, they've had amazing matches. All of their matches this year have been outstanding. All of them. So it feels like they deserve to be on SummerSlam. One would think potentially fighting for a championship. I just want to see where all of this is going to go. I don't want to make a judgment call yet, though I know people are already kind of like, okay, we've been watching what's been happening for the Street Profits for months. You know, ever since they came back at the top 3 at Royal Rumble, it's like, okay, where are they? They win the tag titles, then they end up in a TLC match after Mania. You know, they win the titles on TV. They defend the titles on TV. So I guess we could argue a couple things. Is this a Street Profits issue, or is this a SmackDown tag team issue? Because the tag team division, I think, on SmackDown has been hotter than on Raw, for sure.
Easily.
Yet it's been the entire SmackDown tag team division that's not been included in these PLEs. It's not just been the Street Profits.
Of course.
So I think, you have to go back to Royal Rumble for the last time that we saw the SmackDown tag titles on a PLE. And that was a 2 out of 3 falls match, which was great. But after that, everything else has been, SmackDown.
Right.
So the question really is, are the Street Profits being slighted from the PLE and title picture, or is the SmackDown tag division being slighted? And I think the answer to that could help us figure out what's going on with the Street Profits.
I think, first off, we might have to take our own advice and not make a judgment. It's too early to make the judgment.
Yes.
I agree. It's too early to make the judgment.
I agree.
For me, the second thing is I think I'm in the same boat as you when it comes to what this is going to turn into for the Street Profits themselves in terms of a breakup or them staying together. This definitely feels more like they're staying together. I'm not expecting.
Yeah.
I'd actually be very surprised at this point. As much as I've been waiting and we were talking about a breakup for years upon years, I don't want it to happen right now. It just wouldn't.
Right.
I don't know. It just wouldn't make sense. I don't know why, but it just wouldn't. I'd rather them be in a position where they win back the tag team championships than see a breakup. They could make it work. With the amount of tag teams that there is, losing the Street Profits in that division wouldn't be a negative or a loss in that respect because of the amount of teams and the amount of teams that are good enough as well. But for me, I would rather see them win back the titles than see a breakup. To answer the question of whether it's a tag team division problem or a Street Profits problem, I think it's a bit of both, if I'm honest. And I think it's the booking of both, in the sense where the booking of the Street Profits, it's been confusing for like the last 2 or 3 years. Yes, they won the tag team championships. We felt as though that was the answer, but a few months later they lose it, so it gets us back to that confused state. B-Fab kind of turns up out of nowhere. Why be there when she wasn't there when they had titles? Is a bit weird to me, but okay, cool. And I know she was dealing with her own stuff. That's cool. That kind of helps it make a bit more sense, but still a bit weird. So yeah, but then on in terms of the tag teams, I kind of feel as though, as great as it's been for SmackDown and the tag team division, I now feel as though there's too many that are all in the same space. And I think that's possibly causing the problem, because it's difficult now to focus on one team or 2 or 3 teams who are at the top. Everyone is good enough to be champions. So who do you give the reins to? I think it's very similar to the discussion that we had about AEW over the last year or so. Who do you make your world champion? So many of them are so good or in the same space. To where guys like your Aleister Black and Rusev were kind of like missing and had to go back to WWE. It's that same sort of thing where everyone's as good as they are, as good as each other, to where, okay, so we can't give the Street Profits the belt for a year, because what about DIY? What about Motor City Machine Guns? What about Pretty Deadly? What about the Gazas? What about, there's no answer to it. So unfortunately, the Street Profits have to lose out in a way or to a level. And we don't like it, but it's the reality of the situation. I would like to think that come SummerSlam, I'm sure there's a space. It's 2 nights. We know about 5 or 6 matches that are happening, which is great. But that's not going to fit 2 nights of SummerSlam. We have to have a tag team match, SmackDown tag team division match within that 2 nights. And if that does happen, I'll be upset if the Street Profits are not involved. Even given the level of talent that's in the division, I'd actually be upset that the Street Profits would, if they're not involved, I'd throw my hat. I'd go crazy, to be honest. I'd go mad. I'd be like, wait, what? So it's a very difficult position for everyone, for the Street Profits, for the division, for the for creative. Like, I don't know what we do, but I just feel as though we're still missing something when it comes to the Profits. Though I think we're still missing something in terms of, I don't know if it's not a connection with the fans, but in terms of how they're booked, what stories they want to show, tell with them, what the end goal is with the team. But all in all, as you said, the fact that Angelo Dawkins now has, raised his profile in the way that he has, been doing the heavy lifting, as you said, all these things, his whole demeanor, his whole attitude seems so much more serious, and you can connect with it a little bit more. Yes, he may lack, or has a little less, it doesn't lack charisma, has a little less charisma than Montez Ford. But I think that's literally the only thing that is missing. If you were to compare the two, that's the only thing he's missing. But it's gotten so much better that we're now looking at him thinking, he could do something too. So it's interesting. On the other side, on the flip side, on Raw, we've got the New Day. They're doing their thing. They lost out on in that triple threat that they had last night on Raw. Do you see any answers or any issues or any problems really with what's happening with the New Day, or if there's going to be any answer to what's happening with them at all?
I think we're seeing yet another chapter of evolution for them. After they lost the tag titles, when they came back with the whole "we're in mourning," it was brilliant. And here's what's so cool about them. They have managed to go from the, Bootios, we play video games, unicorns thing, to an elevated level of entertainment where they're hitting one-liners that you really have to pay attention to. And they're utilizing fashion. And they're really bringing the full scope of who they are into this run right now. And I believe there's a point that you get to where you kind of transcend the championship. They're at a space where they don't have to be tag team champions. They had a really good run. They've held the title 12, 13 times. Now they get to be steady Eddie, very entertaining. They put on great matches. Everybody can't be the champions, but you can play a part in the show such that you are must see. And I think anytime they show up on our television, they are must see. So I'm interested in where this goes. And does Grayson Waller end up being a part? Do they end up doing something else with another edge? Like, it's kind of left field, but who knows? So I'm good with where they are right now because they seem to be maximizing these moments.
Yeah, that's true. And that's not something I really thought of in terms of still kind of, being on our TVs every single week, giving us phenomenal matches. Again, like the Street Profits, every single time they come out, it's a good match. Every single time without fail.
Every time.
Xavier Woods seems to have become another new person as well.
Yes.
He's evolved again. And by the simplicity of changing his ring gear.
Yep.
Like, that's the only thing that's actually changed.
Yeah.
It's wild. It's wild that such a small thing can make a massive difference and be so noticeable in terms of his evolution as a wrestler as well. So it's fine that they're not champions. I think the only thing that is missing here is, one, the Raw Tag Team division is nowhere near as over as the SmackDown one. Right. It could be. The teams are good enough. It could be, but they've not been booked well. You see champions, they win championships and then they just don't defend at all, or just walk around with it backstage and all that kind of thing, which is still weird to me. But, it's an easy fix. But at the same time, if the New Day end up in a significant story off the back of all of this, then I'm cool. Like, they don't need to have the championships. And I don't know why it's different, but I feel as though the Street Profits need to have the championships, whereas the New Day don't. Actually, the New Day have done it 12, 13 times. That's why.
Right. That's why.
That's why.
That's why.
So yeah, we'll see what happens. The whole Grayson Waller thing is confusing, intriguing. It's a bit of a shame that they did this whole thing of A-Town Down Under was finished from an announcement backstage when they've been pulling on that for like the last 2 years.
Yeah. Well, I think they said that Theory was injured.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
I think that's what kind of led to that. But,
yeah. Hopefully, if and when he comes back, that will happen. Somehow. But yeah, I think where the New Day are is fine. They're on our TVs every week. They're in matches often, putting on great matches. And while the Street Profits are doing exactly the same, I think a tag team championship, regaining the tag team championships, I think is necessary, just to establish them a little bit more. The last thing I want to make mention of and talk about is AEW. We've come off of All In, Texas. Yes. Of course, Swerve and Ospreay defeated the Young Bucks. They're now, quote unquote, EVPs of the company. We've seen Swerve come out. I think it was on Dynamite, coming out in his suit, the most Swerve suit it could possibly be. I know that's something that you've been waiting for years and years to see Swerve in a suit.
Yeah.
It was amazing. But of course, the biggest talking point from all of that is that he looks to be challenging Okada for the Unified. I can't say the Unified Championship. How does this play out? Does Swerve defeat Okada in that first outing? Will there be a next one if he doesn't? What do you think happens in this particular scenario?
It's interesting. As you were thinking about that, as you were mentioning that, I was thinking, well, that would be another piece of the Elite, but I don't know if you can consider him still as part of the Elite, him being Okada, since he is working with Don Callis. So I don't know.
I mean, the reason why he mentioned or called, I think he called out Swerve. The reason why he called out Swerve is because he beat his friends, as he said, in terms of the Young Bucks. So it's still kind of like an Elite thing, but of course, as you said, he's now associated with Don Callis.
That part I don't know if it was just a loose affiliation for the Kenny Omega match, or if this is like Okada's a full-scale member of the Don Callis family. Because if that's not the case and this is still part of the Elite, this makes sense, because this is Swerve, really trying to tear down that Elite establishment. And Okada would be kind of the last piece of this. Now, since Okada has been the Continental Champion for over a year, and that feeds into this unified situation, it'd be nice to see Swerve win this title. I guess my question though is, since Swerve and Ospreay are able to challenge for the world title now, does he want to take advantage of that? I mean, and fight Hangman? Is Okada a better deal for him? So I don't know which is the better move for Swerve right now. I think we all know he's been interested in the world title, and that was the only title he was interested in. So to see him go after the unified title is interesting. I'm still not sold that Okada is losing anytime soon, but if there was a time for it to happen, I think the momentum is such where it could happen now. So I'm intrigued. I think the match itself is going to be a banger, just because you've got Swerve and Okada. It has to be amazing. Who walks out with that championship? I think we may have a scenario where the Bucks get involved in this first outing, and this will lead to something bigger and more significant. That could eventually see Swerve as champion, but I don't know that he wins it the first time out. I think we get some interference from the Bucks.
Yeah, I think that's a strong possibility. I think for me, it makes more sense if Swerve wins. But with the possibility of the Bucks interfering and it then becoming something bigger, I think that makes a bit more sense. I think with him going or focusing on this championship rather than having a chance to go for the world championship, I think there's two ways to look at it. He could go straight after Hangman. Obviously they've had their rivalry and all the rest of it. Yes, they made amends, but that could have been a momentary thing, and only because the enemy of my enemy is my friend, and all that kind of talk. But I think the wiser thing would be to do other things, knowing that at any point you can challenge for the world championship.
Right.
It doesn't have to happen straight away. It's in your own time. It's almost like holding the briefcase. You can cash in whenever you're ready. So other things can be done. You can do all your side missions and whatnot, and then go for the world championship. I think what would be interesting would be Ospreay going for Hangman first. And whether he wins or loses, you either get Ospreay versus Swerve for the championship, or a potential triple threat match.
Yeah, I like that.
Either one works, especially given the complexity of their relationships at the minute and everything else that's going on. So that would be interesting. But I like this whole thing with Swerve and Okada, and the different championship that they're once again trying to establish. It's like they're trying to establish every title every 3 months. I don't understand it.
It's wild.
It's clearly an AEW thing to me. But yeah, I think that in itself is still a good thing for them to kind of establish this unified championship, with Swerve being where he is. Swerve not holding a championship for so long as well, allows intrigue in terms of the result and how it can work out. And I think, all in all, I think Bucks getting involved and it leads to something bigger, whether the bigger thing first off is a multi-person tag match. One of the, what did they call it again? The Palladium in the state. I don't know, something.
Anarchy in the Arena or something like that.
That's the one. Yeah, that's the one.
I like Palladium in the stadium though. I like that.
I don't know what that even means.
That's funny.
It just rhymes.
That's
yeah. So you could get that, and then get the one-on-one again with Okada Swerve, and Swerve comes away with the championship. And I think it needs to lead to Swerve winning a championship. I don't care what the championship is, but I think of the world or the unified, I think it's only one of those two. That would make sense. I think TNT is probably a bit beneath him now. But one of the other two, definitely. So, but you still got the conversation about Ospreay and what he does as well in this position. So it's going to lead to someone turning on someone eventually. It's probably going to be way down the line. There's so much time until that could happen. But I think that's where we're getting at. The last question I want to ask, AEW related as well. The last question I want to ask is, who the hell is beating the Hurt Syndicate?
I think, excuse me, I'm sorry. Keith. Yeah. Keith Sweat. Yeah. He said nobody. Yep. That's what he said. That's what he said. If I say it like he did, he said nobody. That's what he said. So yeah. Nobody's taking these titles off of these guys. Like somebody's gonna have to get injured. They're gonna have to get injured. Yeah, that's the only way. They are so dumb. This is Road Warrior level dominance right now.
It's crazy.
And I love to see it. I love to see it. I love it.
It's wild. It's wild how dominant they are, but yet how I'm still intrigued and still invested in the whole thing. Because sometimes you can have long runs, as with Roman Reigns, for example. You know what I mean? He held it for almost 4 years. Even after the first year, we were kind of like, all right, who's going to beat him now? And then we got into that whole year and a half. We were like, okay, can we change hands now, please? But with this, I know it's not clearly not been that long, but at the same time, it's still like, this is crazy, because I really thought that with the triple threat at All In, that there was a strong possibility they lose by not being pinned.
Sure.
Or not themselves not being pinned. But yet they were still dominant in the match. Came away with the win, of course. Now you add the whole thing of MJF holding the opportunity to face the world champion. Gosh, you've got to think about that when it comes to Swerve and Ospreay too.
Right.
It's a lot. in a good way though. Yeah, the Hurt Syndicate are just dominant, man, and it's amazing to see. I think they're in a position where they wanted and probably and should have been back when it was the Hurt Business. And I know, we clearly had them holding the biggest titles that they could have in the World Championship and the Raw Tag Team Championships at the time. But this just feels different. This just feels like it's their thing. And of course, the biggest difference, of course, is in front of the live crowd, which again makes a massive difference to the whole situation as well. So it's going to be interesting to see who it is. It looks like they're eventually going to knock heads with FTR. FTR have been on a run, obviously kind of bring themselves back up the ladder in a way in the tag team division as realistic contenders. I think that's probably what we're going to get at some point, but it would be even more special if the Hurt Syndicate beat FTR.
Yeah.
In terms of just looking at them physically, you expect it to happen, but with FTR being FTR, you think to yourself, maybe they will or can find a way to Hurt Syndicate, but I don't think it will happen if it comes to it. So it's going to be interesting to see how that works. As I said, the Hurt Syndicate are just on top right now, and in a way that's subtle but obvious, if that makes sense. So like they're not running out beating down people every single week, and it's not the whole Death Riders type of scenario where they have to do nasty things in order to stay. They're just literally saying we hurt people, and that's just what they're doing, and they're doing it in the ring. And no one can argue, and they've just done it. That's literally what they do. It's wild. I think it's like the best scenario that could be in. It's crazy. It's crazy. Oh, we could keep going on. There are so many other things to talk about. We still haven't talked about Ricochet, but we won't get to that. We'll get to that when something else happens.
It's just all kinds
so
of
much. So much. I upset a few people when I said this, but I don't care. I'll say it again. AEW seems to be where the blacks wrestle. So, we could have kept on going.
Yeah.
We could have kept on going.
But good times. Good times.
This is the end of the show. You have been watching WrstlXtra on the Black Wrestling Alliance YouTube channel. You catch us here again every single Tuesday, 6 p.m. UK time, 2 p.m. Eastern right now, wherever you are, wherever else you are. Work it out for yourself. But if you don't want to do that, you can catch us whenever you're ready, obviously on demand on YouTube. Gerard, let us know where they can find you also.
Yes, sir. You can find me at Bonnerfied across all of the social spaces, Instagram, Facebook, X, TikTok, all those spaces. You can check me out this weekend with Ashe Wrestling this Saturday for Ashe 10. It's going to be incredible. A lot of great matches. We're going to be wrapping up the first round of the women's tournament, which will feature Charity King against Jordan Blade. I'm very, very excited for that match. And then in the September show, we will crown the inaugural Ashe Wrestling Women's Champion with a 4-way match that will happen. So more news coming on that. We've got Pick Your Poison matches where Billy Dixon takes on Ryan Rembrandt. And then we've got the other Pick Your Poison match, which is Darius Carter, the Ashe Wrestling Men's Champion, taking on Yaya. It's just going to be a full night of amazing wrestling. AsheWrestling.com is where you can check it out. And of course, if you're going to be in Charlotte, make sure you meet us there. We've got some pre-show matches. It's all going to be great. Again, at the Slingshot Social Club in Charlotte. Also, big things coming up with Southern Honor as well. Got a big show with them in a couple of weeks, but our last show is available right now on IWTV. Of course, all kinds of cool things with the Nightmare Factory as well. So again, check it all out at Bonnerfied across all of the social spaces.
Of course. And of course, you can find me in the one place you need to be, which is Black Wrestling Alliance on Instagram. You may find me in other places, but believe me, this is the only place you need to find me. Everywhere else doesn't really matter. Guys, you've been watching the show. This has been WrstlXtra. We will see you again next time.